There's a question most people carry silently in relationships, one they're afraid to ask out loud, afraid to misread, and even more afraid to get wrong. It's not about love. It's not about commitment. It's about something quieter. Something that lives beneath the surface of every relationship, in the pauses, in the distance, in the moments that feel slightly off. And the truth is, most people never actually understand it. Not because they're not paying attention, but because they're looking in entirely the wrong place. When people talk about intimacy in relationships, they almost always focus on the physical dimension alone. How often? How much? How intense? But here's what psychology has known for decades and what most couples only discover too late. Physical desire in a relationship is almost never just physical. It is emotional. It is psychological. It is deeply connected to how safe a person feels, how seen they feel, how valued they feel in their everyday life, not just in moments of closeness, but in all the ordinary, invisible moments in between. A woman's desire for intimacy doesn't operate on a fixed schedule. It doesn't follow a rule. It doesn't respond to pressure or expectation. It responds to emotional reality. And that's the part most people never fully grasp. They look at the frequency, they count the days, they measure the distance, but they never ask the deeper question. What is she actually feeling beneath all of this? Let's walk through what actually shapes a woman's desire, not as a stereotype, not as a generalization, but as a psychological pattern observed consistently across relationship science. The first thing that changes isn't desire, it's emotional safety. Before a woman moves toward intimacy emotionally or physically, something has to exist in the relationship environment that most people take for granted. She has to feel safe, not physically safe, emotionally safe. She has to feel that her emotions won't be dismissed. Her needs won't be mocked. That vulnerability won't be used against her later in an argument. When that safety is present quietly, consistently, without performance, desire tends to follow naturally. When that safety is absent, even if everything else looks fine from the outside, desire begins to quietly retreat. Not dramatically, not all at once. Just slowly, subtly, like a tide pulling back. The second thing people miss is the accumulation of small moments. Intimacy in a relationship is not built in grand gestures. It's not built in anniversaries or romantic evenings alone. It's built or it's destroyed in thousands of tiny daily moments. The way someone listens when she's talking about something that bothers her. The way they respond when she's tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. Whether they really notice when something is wrong without being told. These moments accumulate quietly, invisibly, and they either build a foundation of emotional closeness or they slowly erode it. The third pattern is one almost no one talks about: the burden of emotional labor. Research in relationship psychology consistently shows that when one partner, often the woman, carries a disproportionate amount of the emotional, mental, and organizational weight of daily life, it creates a specific kind of exhaustion, not physical exhaustion alone, emotional exhaustion, the kind that doesn't disappear after sleep, the kind that makes closeness feel like one more demand in an already overloaded life rather than a place of rest, relief, and genuine connection. And when intimacy starts to feel like an obligation rather than a choice, something has already gone quietly wrong in the emotional architecture of the relationship. Here is where the real turning point lives, the one most couples reach without ever recognizing it. There is a moment in many long-term relationships where desire doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't send a clear signal. The partner experiencing the withdrawal often doesn't fully understand it themselves. They may describe it as tiredness, as stress, as not being in the mood. And the other partner, the one watching this shift, tends to interpret it personally, as rejection, as loss of attraction, as evidence of something failing. But the psychological reality is almost always more nuanced than either of them realizes. What's happening beneath the surface is a kind of emotional accounting. The mind is quietly measuring. Do I feel close to this person? Do I feel understood by them? Do I feel like I matter to them, not just as a partner, but as a person? When those questions are answered with yes, even imperfectly, even incompletely, desire tends to remain alive. When those questions are answered with silence or with doubt, desire becomes the first thing that quietly disappears. Not because love is gone, but because the emotional connection that makes love feel safe enough to express physically is no longer there. Let's go deeper into the psychology here because this is where most relationship conversations stop just short of the truth. There is a concept in attachment psychology called responsive intimacy, the idea that for many people, particularly women, sexual desire is not spontaneous the way it's often portrayed in popular culture. It is responsive. It is triggered by emotional closeness, by feeling desired in a non-pressuring way, by genuine connection that happens before the moment of potential intimacy, not in place of it. Dr. Emily Nagoski, a research scientist in human sexuality, has written extensively about this distinction, and it fundamentally changes how we understand desire in relationships. Spontaneous desire says, I feel it, and then I seek connection. Responsive desire says, connection appears, and then I begin to feel it. Neither is wrong. Neither is broken. But when a partner who operates on responsive desire is in a relationship with someone who doesn't understand this or who interprets the absence of spontaneous desire as rejection, conflict quietly builds. And here's the deeper layer. Stress is one of the most powerful suppressors of responsive desire. Financial pressure, unresolved conflict, body image, mental load, anxiety, the feeling of being unseen or unappreciated in daily life, all of these activate the brain's threat response system. And when the threat response system is active, the brain does not feel safe enough to enter states of vulnerability, closeness, or intimacy. This is not a choice. This is neuroscience, which means that the solution is never pressure. The solution, the only real solution, is the patient, consistent creation of emotional safety. This is not an isolated pattern. This is one of the most universal dynamics playing out silently in relationships across the world, across cultures, across generations, across every kind of partnership. And here's why it matters beyond the individual relationship. We live in a world that has spent decades commercializing intimacy, packaging it, selling it, reducing it to performance and frequency and comparison. Social media shows couples who seem permanently passionate. Entertainment portrays desire as something that should always be immediately present, always intense, always mutual, and simultaneous. And so when real desire, which is quiet, contextual, emotionally dependent, doesn't match that image, begin to believe something is wrong with their relationship, with their partner, with themselves. But the truth is that authentic desire, the kind that survives years, that deepens over time, that remains present even through difficulty, is built on something far less exciting to talk about. Consistency, emotional attunement, the small daily practice of making someone feel genuinely seen and genuinely safe. Not once, not during conflict repair, not only in grand gestures, quietly, consistently, over time. That's what psychology actually tells us about desire. Not frequency charts, not fixed rules, emotional reality. So what does this mean for you right now in your relationship? It means that if you're in a partnership where intimacy has become less frequent, less warm, or more distant, the answer is probably not where you've been looking. It's not in the moments immediately before or after intimacy. It's in the ordinary Tuesday evening when you asked how she was doing and actually listened. It's in the way you responded when she was overwhelmed. Did you add to that weight or quietly lighten it? It's in whether she genuinely feels, not just intellectually knows, that you are on her side. Because here is what research and lived human experience both confirm. When a woman feels emotionally connected genuinely, not performatively, desire tends to follow naturally. When she feels emotionally distant, even if she can't articulate exactly why, desire tends to quietly recede. This is not a manipulation. This is not a power dynamic. This is the architecture of human emotional psychology. And once you understand it at this level, the way you engage with intimacy, with connection, with communication in a relationship, it quietly transforms. Ask yourself honestly, has she been trying to tell me something not with words but with distance? And have I been answering that with pressure when what she needed was presence? And as this video ends, sit with these questions for a moment. At what point does emotional disconnection actually begin before the distance becomes visible, or long after? Is it possible that the person you're with has been quietly showing you exactly what they need and the only thing missing was the willingness to truly see it? There are no easy answers here. But the fact that you're asking the question, that you sat through this, that you're still thinking, that already means something. Desire, not a mystery, it's a message. It tells you quietly, consistently, in the language of emotional reality, whether two people are genuinely close or whether they are simply sharing space while drifting in different emotional directions. The most important relationship skill is not charm. It's not attraction. It's not knowing the right things to say in the right moments. It is the ongoing patient willingness to create a space where another person feels safe enough to be fully present with you. That is where desire lives. Not in frequency, not in expectation, not in rules or numbers or comparisons. In safety, in consistency, in being genuinely, quietly, fully seen. And that is something every relationship has the capacity to build.